Look, people, I know it's a lot of people out here, times are tough. Y'all looking to make some money out here in this iOS mobile development, but you're having a hard time getting a job. Right now, I'm trying to help you get that job, okay? That's your primary income. You got a high value skill set, but there's some things you're missing. There are things you're probably missing. You are not going to get a job without fully understanding dependency management. I gave you one video that was initialization dependency management. There's two more types: property and method dependency injection. Sorry, not management, but injection. So I'm here to help you understand property. Now, the big thing about this is that, again, when you go through big code bases in big companies, and I've been to big companies, right? I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to know this before you start digging into the code. You will never know the code base, or I don't want to say never. It'll be a long time understanding the code base, longer than your bosses have time for, if you don't understand dependency injection. So again, I already covered initialization dependency injection. Now we're going to talk about property dependency injection and why you use it. Okay, again, initialization, we used it at the very beginning of the app. We put all of the dependencies into our networking service so that it works in our view model, right? You know, basically, so if you have a basic networking service that you want to pass from view model or from view to view using your view model, and all of it is connected to your environment object, cool. Property dependency management works better when kind of like you have to give the dependencies like on the fly, right? And I'm going to show you what I mean when I say that, right? Because that's not very apparent. So here we go. Get these skills so you can go out here and wow them on the job interview, impress them, and make money. So we're doing this, and we're here. I'm going to go over property dependency injection, right? Like I said before, there's three types, right? There's initializer, there's property, and there's method. Now, why would we use property? Why not just always use initializer dependency injection? Well, for one, sometimes in dependency initializer dependency injection, you have one place where you're gonna initialize your networking service, right? You know, your networking service works only one type of way, right? So in the other project is an example of that, right? Basically, you pass an acronym to it, it does an API call, gets a response back, and all the words that can fit with that acronym, right? Well, this one is, say we want to have networking services that work completely different, right? And but we don't want them always instantiated when the app starts up. We only want them to be used under certain conditions, right? We only want those dependencies given to the networking service only under particular conditions. That's when dependency, I'm sorry, that's when a property dependency injection comes into play. So here's an app, right? And we're using the same API, but it's going to be a little bit different, right? So now we're going to press a button, and it's going to call a networking service that works, the networking service that works one way. And that's all the acronyms that cover lists, LS, right? And these are all the acronyms that LS, all the words that LS as an acronym represents, right? But remember, we don't use that view all the time, right? So we don't want to load those dependencies into the networking service. Now we have over here, we have this one, right? And this one's, it's the same networking service, but we pass different parameters, AS, right? And then we get all this back. But we didn't give it the dependencies until this particular view was called. Not at the beginning like the other project. As soon as the project started up, we put the dependencies in the networking service, then we used it. With this one, we didn't. We waited until certain views were shown, then we put the dependencies in and made the API call, and it did the work. Okay? Sometimes you might want to do that. So here we go. In this one, we're going to start with our views, content view. This is our content view, right? And we look at our button, LS acronym list, AS acronym list, right? Welcome to the main view, right? And the only things we have in here outside of UI things are these two properties that use the add state wrapper, show modal and show first modal, show first modal, show second modal, sorry. And yeah, when those are initiated, they show a particular view, LS view and AS view. So let's look at LS view. This is what LS view is right here. Boom, boom, boom. All this, create an instance of our view model. So we have a full instance of the view model. But however, we want to, on appear, we're going to set a dependency, our regular networking service, right? We're going to put it in there. And then after that, we can load the data. Now, as a result of being able to load the data, once the data is loaded, we can get the word list. Otherwise, it's going to be nil. Right? So, and the same thing goes with the AS. Right? So remember, these are basically the same view models, AS view model and LS view model. The only difference is they pass different parameters. Right? So really, this just illustrates a big point, right? Because maybe you want to have a completely different networking service, right? Making completely different API calls, depending on which view you want to go to, right? But sometimes you may not ever make that call when you use the app. So you don't want to load those dependencies. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, this is our AS view model. We have a word list right here. Boom, boom, boom. Networking service protocol. All this is always optional, right? And let's see. Then we load the data. We get our networking service. Once we set our networking service, guess what happens? Then we can retrieve list from here and create a fetch list. Set this word list to fetch list, and our app works. Let's go look at what retrieve list is doing. Right here, networking service. Right? This is what retrieve list looks. When we use an async await, right? We build our URL based on the acronym. We have a complete URL. We pass the URL to this URL session.share.data, and it gets back our data and our response, right? We check our response, get the status code, make sure it's between 200 and 299. If it's not, we have a bad server response. But if it is, we'll go on and we'll use this response request. Oh, actually, we won't. We'll use the data. We'll use the data, right? We'll decode the data using our model, right? I've already discussed that, right? Then we have our acronym list. We have our acronym list, and then we check if it's empty. We make a regular word list, and we return that word list. Okay, let's look at the, so that's our networking service. We looked at our view models, we looked at our content. Now, if this is confusing to you, I suggest that you go back, look at this code again. Look at this code, because your ability to get out here in the real world is going to depend a lot on your ability to look at code and kind of figure out what's going on.